Are you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRating look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, you will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you exactly where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off of your lap times. And our powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the world's best drivers. All these champions agree that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also priced well below the competition. So if you're looking to upgrade to direct drive and the best pedals in sim racing, VRS is your answer. If you want to get better, get faster, and make it happen sooner rather than later, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. You'll be so glad that you did. Visit www.virtualracingschool.com and learn why the best use VRS.
The Radical Racing Challenge is back on Apex Racing TV. Welcome to the Strength of Field race for week 1 of the 2022 Season 3. We've got a new car for you tonight, however, it is the same in the comms box. It is myself, Sam Fitzpatrick, alongside Johan Kernes. Luis Araya is doing the production tonight. And Johan, it is wonderful to be back on this series again. But it is almost feels like a different series now. The SR8 and the SR10 are very different cars. We've got some of the similar drivers, but I think it's going to be a whole new challenge for them out there on track.
Yeah, definitely. I think a lot of them still have that new car smell in the SR10 at the moment. It's an interesting one. I think some of the drivers might struggle to adapt to the new car. And I actually wrote down a few stats for us just to kind of say goodbye to the old car. So previously the series was run with the SR8, 2.6 litre V8 that was revving at about 10,000 RPM, gave it that nice kind of high-pitched growl. It's been toned down now, so it's a 2.3 litre 4-cylinder inline turbocharge, kind of based on a Ford EcoBoost engine done by the Radical Performance engine guys. So that engine is going to output a bit more horsepower. We've got 425 brake horsepower versus the 380 previously. The car is also about 75 kilos heavier, and it is going to wreak absolute havoc here at Road Atlanta. Sam, I think you might have also done a few laps here, but I know that a lot of drivers have been complaining over the week about tires kind of giving in by the lap 15 mark. For me personally, it's been the lap 10 mark, but I'm a lot worse on my tires. What do you think are the drivers going to make of this this new car on Road Atlanta?
Yeah, well, it should be. I think it's a pretty good track to start on, isn't it? Everyone knows this place. It's not super complex. You have the S's, you have the chicane at the end of the lap, and that's kind of the corners that matter. I must say, in the race that I did, I crashed on like lap 12, so I didn't really feel the tyres going. I'm not going to blame it on the tyres. The reason why I crashed it was my lack of skill. But you went through the technical details, and what that I think sums up to is this car is fast. It goes super quick, particularly the acceleration, but through the corners it is nowhere near as good as the SR8. In total, I believe this car is faster, and I don't know about you, Johan, it does not feel faster. When I was driving this car, I could not believe around a circuit like Suzuka that this car is faster than the SR8. and yet apparently it is. It kind of just shows how absolutely lightning fast this car is down a straight line.
I would actually wonder about when we get to the Nordschleife, because I know the Nordschleife was the kind of domain of the SR8 for quite a long time. You had that record that was set on the Nordschleife. I don't know exactly when, but a lot of heritage in the Radical car on that track. And driving in the SR10, I don't know how it's going to deal with Nordschleife. It's a bit different. The rear end feels a lot more kind of nervous. The turn in is a bit more sluggish. I mean, in the SR80, if you turned in, it would just go. But I would say I'm going to disagree with you in terms of the car feeling a bit slower, or kind of implying that the car feels slower. I drive this car in VR, and it just feels like an absolute bullet. To some small extent, it's not as fast as the LMP2, but it feels like an LMP2 with the roof removed, and some of the bells and whistles also taken away.
I think that is a good comparison, and yeah, I can imagine in VR you do get a lot better of the feel compared to my single screen, which I have to live with as a poor 21-year-old. We are currently in the back of qualifying. Only 2 laps the drivers get to set. It's the same as any other official series, is this one, and so pretty much everyone has completed. I'm looking down the order. Everyone has completed their laps, bar Dylan Freckleton. So I don't think he's going to be taking part. Everyone else has done their laps, even if they, I mean, Lopez has just put in a purple first sector there. This is not going to count as a lap, I believe, at least. I know, maybe it's worth just checking. Maybe he take back to the pits on his first lap, but we'll see. Brilliant field we've got though tonight, Johan, because we've got Halliburton, who I think has won the official series in the past. Dadswell has won the Finding Speed Championship on Apex Racing TV before. Barber has won the Apex Racing League Radical Championship, and Lopez has won like 20-odd official series as well. Brilliant to have these legends out on track tonight.
Yeah, it's definitely looking forward to the race. So might as well call it the Radical Legendary Racing Challenge.
Exactly. Yeah, it's like a Champions of Champions, honestly. It's great to see all these guys back, because last time we broadcast it, there was usually only one of them on the grid at one time, but good to see them all out and at the front tonight. Halliburton, though, on pole, 10th to a second ahead of Albert, who we're not familiar with. I'm not sure who Tristan is, but he's clearly very quick. Then it's Dadswell, Barber, at Macca. Lopez starts in P6. Then it's Vieira. Then it is Bartosk and D. Drater lines up in P10. Paulo Drater, where do I recognise that name from? He's in one of the Apex Racing League series. My bad for not remembering on the spot. Harmon in 11th place. Christopher Mitchell lines up in 12th. Then it's Aldous Puticlus. He is a very good driver, is Aldous. Very consistent driver. And veteran of the SR8. Kopka in 14th place. Then it's Paul Crabb, another veteran. Robert Woodward, another veteran again. Jake Spencer from Brazil in 17th. Then it's Tommy Vittens and Dylan Freckleton, who didn't take part in qualifying. I just hope he takes us to the grid, Johan.
Yeah, it might be one of those strokes of genius where you start from the back, wait for the carnage to kind of play out, especially racing in these official kind of iRacing races. You don't know your opponents that well, and especially this early in the season where you've got so many new faces around you, you don't know exactly what the drivers around you are going to do. And with the risk of mistakes being that high, yeah, you've got to be careful.
Everyone is on the grid, including Freckleton. Great to see him around. So we've had a break. We've had a 3-month break, but we're back on Apex Racing TV, back with the Radicals, the new Radical, and the green flag is waving. It's not a good start for the guys on the front row of the grid, but I don't think anyone behind is going to be able to do much about it. There goes storming through the middle, potentially the number 2 car, but I think it's going to be Dadswell, the big gainer on this first corner. He's up the inside of Albert, as the drivers will probably be very cautious down into turn 3, and Dadswell is able to consolidate that position. Now single file through the S's for the first time. Big unstill on this first lap. We've got a big crash behind, and that's just outside the top 5, because that was Crab and Vieira, who I think started in P7 out there, straight away down the order. Also Bartosz as well, dropping down, and Harman. So big shame to see a few of the top 10 drivers straight away out there. But it's an amazing start for Halliburton. Wasn't a great launch for him, but he's already 1.2 seconds clear of the rest as they all battle each other for those podium places.
Yeah, definitely like a bullet out of a gun, but that's well just streaming past everyone there at the start. So very, very good start for him. He's going to be extremely happy. And we'll quickly have a look at what happened at the start. Sorry, with that accident.
Yeah, this is Vieira who was at the front of it all. I'm not sure if he necessarily caused... Oh, so it got the 4 car.
Oh.
Or was that Bartosz? So I think that was Bartosz just ahead of Vieira. He spun round after making contact to the guy ahead of him, who I think was Lopez, or at Macca. And that caused craziness. 2.2 seconds now is the gap. Halliburton can believe this. D has gone off the circuit at turn 1 though. He was in the top 10, had a good start to Frankie D, but he is all the way back to the rear, just because he hasn't got any damage on that car. But Albert was able to get past Dadswell whilst we were on that replay. But honestly, them battling is just absolutely handed Halliburton a huge advantage.
Yeah, no, and we'll quickly check here what happens to D on turn 1. Oh, and that's just complete understeer. Into the corner way too fast, and that's definitely going to cost him time, possibly some damage to his suspension. We don't know how kind of sensitive these cars and fragile. Oh yeah, that tire isn't going nowhere. So unfortunately, the car's being a bit fragile here at the start, and that is going to be D jumping to the pit. Halliburton out in front. He got his tire switch on in the cold temperatures, but we've got Lopez going for a move on the Atmaca going for a move into the chicane and not getting the move done. So Lopez is hanging on to position 3, right on his rear. Atmaca now has the draft falling right behind him. And you can see that gap slowly closing down, but not enough by turn 1. And that's the difficult thing with these cars, with the cold tyres at the start. It's going to catch out quite a few drivers. So a little bit more chaos than we would bargain for. I think something happened there in the background.
And also issue for Dadswell, down to 15th position. So he was with these guys, and now he's not. He's had to tow back to the pit seemingly. So we're spending a lot of time on the replays at the moment, but a lot is happening out there. So he was, oh no, so it was the 4 car spinning in front of him, and that's what took out Dadswell, and I think just too much damage on that car. So sorry, apologies, so we missed Albert, of course, dropping down as well. Dadswell absolutely furious, he's got a broken car, he knows it, so he just smashes it to oblivion. And so Dadswell and Albert, who has been able to continue Albert, but he is now a long way detached and potentially with damage as well. And those two were 2nd and 3rd, and they have been removed. So a really good battle we were hoping for. It was so close in qualifying, and yet Halliburton is the only one who's had a clean race so far. Barbara up into 2nd place, Lopez up 3 places into 3rd. We've got Crab up 9 places to P6, and we've also got this battle with Puticles battling Crab, and that is Crab, I think, just holding on against Puticles there, who was trying to come back at him. Then Mitchell and Bitton's right on the tail. But big problem so far for 6 out of the 19 drivers, and we're only a fifth of the way through the race.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely crazy, but that's the problem with these cars at the moment, and especially because we're using a fixed setup. I've been driving the same setup that these guys are. Granted, they're doing a much better job than I was able to do with it, but it's very sensitive to the curbs, especially on the exit out of turn 5 as we saw that car spinning. It just unsettles the car quite a bit too much. And here at the exit of turn 7, you can see there in the background, it also unsettles the car as you go over it. It's a very, very sudden jolt going through the entire car. The only curbs that I think that you're able to use are through the chicane here of turn 10. And Puticles looking on the inside behind them, Mitchell and Wittens as well. Mitchell keeping ahead. But Puticles making the overtake work on Crab, and Crab now under pressure from the 2 cars behind him. And Mitchell, the 3rd car in that 4-car battle.
Yeah, that was close battling there. We'll see if the draft effect can keep Crab in play with Putzklis Mitchell, yeah, ahead of Bits and Spencer. Not really catching up to these guys too much, but Ferguson, who started right from the back, he's making his way through. Tom Daswell, let's get started on the YouTube chat. Thanks, Tom, for still watching along. Hopefully you're still watching. Letting us know that he didn't actually know the car was broken until he pressed the brakes. So I thought he just got angry and went full pelt at the wall. But instead, actually, he just couldn't stop the car. And I have driven these cars a little bit around Sandown. I was crashing every other corner, and these cars break easy. It's not like, you know, earlier on we were watching the LMP2 smash into a wall at 50 miles an hour and lose absolutely no time. You could tap the wall nose first at 20 miles an hour in these cars and you might have terminal damage. It's a bit like the SR8. It is very brittle, these cars, and so any type of wheel-to-wheel, you're going to be in problem. And we might have some context here because Putzklis is spinning around all by himself, but fortunately he didn't spin on the circuit. Gets back going. He'll be around Albert actually, so both of them will be out of position. But this SR10 is tricky, and usually it's the understeer that drivers have problems with, Johan, but that time it was the oversteer.
Yeah, so the problem with these cars is that you're fast enough to actually trigger understeer. I mean, there's not really enough mechanical grip to deal with all of that speed. But then you've also got the issue that under braking, that the rear just becomes so light, and we'll especially see it once we get past the 10 lap mark. Going into, let's say, the 15 laps mark, you'll see a lot of drivers having to slow down their times to really deal with that rear end. And it's especially difficult into corners 1 and 6, where the rear just really wants to let go, especially from not being a very fast corner. And Baba is going to be under pressure here as Lopez pulls ahead of him on the straight, gets the job done before they go into the chicane. And that is the change for P2. Baba still under pressure there with Equica behind him, looking for an opportunity.
These are the two that I want to see. Well, I think this is the ideal top 3, honestly. Probably two of the most successful radical drivers in our time of broadcasting at Esports City. For those who aren't aware, we first broadcast this series over 18 months ago. I think 2020 December, and then we did, I think, 6 straight seasons this last season. We're back this season, and Halliburton, Lopez and Barber were always at the front. So at least one of them was, but it is awesome that they've all taken back up the Radical. Hopefully they stick with it for the rest of the season and have some free time on a Friday evening, because this is absolutely great to see. Ever since Halliburton pulled out that gap, though, it hasn't been increasing. Freckleton has made a mistake, though. That's a huge shame. Freckleton was started from the back. He'd been able to get himself, I think, all the way to top 10. But he's made a crucial mistake right here, which will pretty much undo most of that work.
Yeah, that's there you can see the car just bumping off the curb, being unsettled. And Freckleton, unfortunately, losing what he's been working for so hard. Interestingly, though, he's already 6 positions up from where he was, even where you currently see him on track. So his strategy is still paying off. I mean, he's able to go on with the car. It's just that one unforced error that he made that kind of lands a little bit.
Yeah, I think he'll be able to gain a fair few positions. He's now, with Putzklis up there. Peter Albert is up into 12th position despite his spin round this corner earlier on. I remember you sent a message earlier on, Johan, talking about how the Jers would deal with that curve, and it turns out not very well. Koepka up ahead of Woodward, who I think has had a problem himself now. No, he's just been overtaken by both Koepka and Albert. Maybe realising that Albert is one of the fastest drivers out there and quite willingly given as we head on to the long back straight once again. Barber, I mean, honestly, he won't be far off. I remember everyone, like Johan was saying earlier on a fixed setup. So there's no differences. It's not as though Barber's got less drag or anything, but you can just see visually the time that he gains down that straight. The slipstream is not as powerful as what the SR8 was a year ago, but it is still useful. And I think Putzklis is going to take full utility of that right now.
So we'll see, down the straight we go. Possible opportunity here, and it's going to come down under the brakes. He's going to opt for the inside line. That's a very brave thing to do in this car, and Ooh, just narrowly avoids contact, but Freckleton is going to be able to muscle his way through the corner with the optimal racing line. Not sure how he lost speed on the exit over the hill there, but Puticlus somehow pulling ahead.
Yeah, so I'm not sure who's the faster out of these two. Puticlus only qualified in P13. It wasn't a good qualifying for Puticlus, but certainly so far in this race, he looked really quick. Remember, he was up ahead of Crab at one point. And yeah, by those times at least, love the scrap. Freckleton does seem a fair bit slower after that spin. Oh, that's wide. Gets away with it. And to be fair, Freckleton, it looks very, very cautious or made a mistake himself. Wasn't able to gain too much initially, gains a bit more later down the straight. Bit of smoke there, but very common to look up the unloaded front right, heading through that very slow right-hander. And now we have got Kopka defending against Albert. And this should be easy peasy for the car number 4. Of course, those numbers indicating the driver's seeding. So it should be easy for Albert. And it is. Kopka backing out of it, and Albert now has 1.6 seconds to catch up to Spencer. Spencer may be all he gets, honestly, because Vittens is 7.5 seconds up the road. So Albert, after that spin earlier on, he's lucky to still be in the race, frankly. But I think top 9 will be as best as it gets for him.
Yeah, I think at this stage you just want to recover and maybe pick out a rival in the field that you want to reach and then just absolutely go for it. But it would be an interesting situation if you're stuck behind someone that you can kind of keep pace with without the rest of them running away. So we've got this battle between Lopez and Baba. And if Baba wasn't too afraid that Lopez would fall behind Halliburton, you could kind of almost, and you can see them pulling alongside here for the chicane. We'll see what exactly happens. So Baba on the inside, unfortunately, doesn't have the space to go through. But you could play the war of attrition and kind of stay behind your opponent, save your tires, kind of just have the draft on all of the straights, keep you up to speed. And then by the end of the race, if you still have a bit more in the tank in terms of your tires, then overtaking should be a bit easier.
Yeah, I think that is definitely going to be a factor later on, isn't it? So, yeah, it will be fascinating because I don't really know what to expect. Honestly, I think these guys will roughly know. They would have done a few races with each other earlier on in the week, but yeah, they'll have an idea of what's going to happen in the last 3 laps because yeah, with those tyres, we could see a lot of changes for position, which isn't usually a thing that we necessarily expected in this series back when the SR8 was being used. As Albert is now onto the back of Spencer. Didn't take him very long to catch that one up. By the way, you're seeing a lot of blank cars out there at the moment. Any of the drivers out here, as Albert moves straight through, any of the drivers who are racing in this or planning on racing in this split in the future, go submit your paints. If you go to the Radical Discord, which I'm sure many of you are already in, I believe there are instructions on there where you can submit your paint. Also, it would be fantastic if you donated to the broadcast as well. Helps out the community to pay for these broadcasts. But yeah, certainly do submit your paints as well. It'd be fantastic to see a few of those fantastic liveries I'm sure the judges have designed for this SR10 already. So Crab now a bit comfortable, 0.8 of a second ahead of Mitchell, but Vittens actually lost 0.2 of a second on that last lap. This guy's just holding station, maybe saving those tires like you were saying earlier on, Johan, for that overtakes in the closing stage.
Yeah, it's very tricky, especially here through the S's, because you're arriving at turn 5, and if you kind of go wide through the S's, you might still be turning by the time you need to brake. And that can normally lose you anything up from 0.2 to 0.5 if you're not careful. That's if you keep control of the car. If you lose control and you go over the curb, it's even worse. But yeah, so mistakes here are quite costly, and they are going to get a lot more costly as the race progresses. And Lopez right on his rear, there's 0.6 dividing them. And I think Akbaka is just kind of holding on to the rear of Lopez. Baba falling behind slightly, so unfortunately losing a bit of pace there. And yeah, there you can see the times increasing for Lopez as we are continuing. He did have one monster of a lap on lap 11, but the general idea is that everything's kind of going up as he goes along.
Yeah, I don't know if it was a mistake from Barbie. It must have been. I can only imagine. I mean, it's Owen Barbie. He doesn't lose 1.5 seconds in 2 laps without a mistake. That last lap was a bit that could have just been. No, actually, it was a bit of a rubbish lap there for Barbie, considering that he was able to quite easily keep up with Lopez. Let's see if he can catch later on. Remember, Halliburton was 4 seconds clear after 2 laps earlier on. In the last 11 laps, it's pretty much been even. So there you can see the gap. Thanks to Luis O'Reilly for displaying that one, our broadcaster tonight. And yeah, it barely's changed, 0.4 of a second faster as Lopez been, but just shows how much time they were losing in those early stages. Wasn't necessarily dumb driving or anything, it was just they were practicing in for the first few corners, and then we had second and third place. Dadswell and Albert crash into one another. And that really did cause a chasm out there. That last lap though, Halliburton very strong, opens the gap back over 4 seconds. Just seeing if there's any other bouts going on. Crab still clear of Mitchell. Vitson's dropping back slightly. But you might have Freckleton versus Puticlis again, because Freckleton's got back ahead of Puticlis. I did not see this one. Don't know if it was a mistake from Puticlis, but he is catching back up again. This will be his second overtake on the British driver.
It's quite the battle between Puticlis and Freckleton at the moment, kind of just sticking together for the entirety of the race, and it's what makes racing fun. If you've got that rival in front of you that's very close, I mean, all of us want to win. Unfortunately, there is only 3 positions on the podium, but this kind of racing, the tight battles that you've got with someone that you know, or at least know on track, always kind of what gets your heart racing and gets the blood pumping. And Puticlis drawing ever closer to Freckleton in front of him. So going through turns 6 and 7 now, this is always one of the hardest braking zones on the track that can absolutely make or break your lap. And it looks like Freckleton might have made a bit of a mistake there on his exit. Puticlis doesn't have the closing speed though, so maybe carrying a bit less speed through that turn 7. But now active draft is starting to kick in, and they are going to pull side by side halfway down the straight, and to the inside Freckleton goes. So heavy on the brakes for the chicane, and he might have gotten a bit of an off track for that for his trouble there. And yes, he Puticlis did actually.
Yeah, I think he would have done. As long as you don't get the slowdown though, it can be absolutely killer. Round that first track.
Oh, no.
Oh, he spun round. He's fortunate not to hit Dadswell, but he does smash into the wall. And that's game over for Aldous Puticlis. We'll hopefully see him back next week. Crab has had an issue. He was P6. Oh, and Spencer's now wide. You've got to be so careful over that curve. Once it eats you up, you dip a wheel onto it, or you dip half your car into it, and it just swallows you up and forces you to go wide, so as to lose it when you rejoin the circuit. Spencer's wide again, and this is going to open up the opportunity for Koepka, but this is what happened to Crab. He'd been able to pull away slightly from Mitchell behind, but then he's going to be another man who runs wide. No, he's actually just spun it, and does an awkward 180, or 270 I think, 90, I'm not sure. He's back going again, but he's lost a lot of time.
That was the rear tire kind of bumping off that outside curb at turn 5, and you could see as the car was landing, the car was just kind of starting to slide already. But I think your information was very, very accurate, because the lap that we were looking at now with all the chaos, that was lap 15. And earlier you mentioned that on lap 15, the tires just start giving up. So it might be that the tires are nearing the end of their life, and the drivers are starting to face the wrath of the tire gods, as we would say.
Yes, I am very smart, and Spencer is proving my point right there. He is all over the place, and of course if you warm up the tyres, then you just lose more grip because you slide more, warms up the tyres more, wears out the tyres more, and it can be a vicious circle. Fortunately around this circuit you've got a fair few straights in order to cool the tyres down, but still can definitely feel it. Atzmacher is staying close to Lopez, still they're matching. Halliburton out in the lead just over 4 seconds. I think Halliburton's got this one clear. It goes so quick to these races. I've forgotten how quick they go. When you're driving them, it feels like it goes on for a while. But yeah, when you're broadcasting it. Does go very quick. A quick shout out to one of our sponsors, Apex Racing Academy, offering lots of different cars for setups and data packs and coaching sessions. Not this car, unfortunately, but loads of others. The single-seaters, rallycross cars, the new Mercedes GT3 and GT4, and loads of other stuff on Apex Racing Academy. Do check out apexracingac.com to get yourself a subscription. Spencer's slightly off the circuit, but I think he's stayed alright. He's still in the pace. We can strongly knows that guy. Lopez is trying to beat the jump. Look how they power past one of the back markers. Here comes the slipstream now for Matka. You don't necessarily want the inside for the chicane. It's very possible to go around the outside, and Lopez survives, but Matka is getting closer.
Yeah, and at this moment, it's kind of anybody's game. With 2 laps, well, 3 laps to go if you count this one. And at the moment, it's just which driver has adapted the best to the car, which driver has got those tires under control. And at the moment, both Lopez and Adbakar has got a firm grasp on how this car is supposed to work here around Road Atlanta. Just 4.5 tenths separating the two of them. And Lopez showing exactly why he's doing the whole Radical series for VRS. And Adbakar just absolutely gunning it. I mean, just look at that. Rated 12th in the kind of the lineup, and he's just battling it up in P3. So superb job there for Adbakar for sticking in there with some of the best drivers out there.
Yeah, slid a little bit around the around the side of the circuit though, and that may have just halted his progress. Does use the draft though, and if Lopez makes a bit of a mistake himself, he could still be in play. Kopka's off the circuit again. He has been having a good battle actually with Freckleton and Woodward, but he is well and truly down into 13th place. Spencer gets back past him, so as we see Atmaka run wide, these guys are struggling as we get through this race. Hopefully we'll get an interview with a few of them to tell us what the car is feeling like at this point of the race. Most of the battles are sort of dying down. Putzklis and Daswell are 2 laps down on the lead, and yet they're only half a second between one another. They both towed back to the pits, and that's why they've lost similar amounts of time. So yeah, Putzklis versus Daswell, they are pretty much side by side right now for 14th position. Doesn't matter too much, and Daswell does move ahead into 14th position right there.
Yeah, I think at this stage, Atmaka is maybe settling for a bit more of a consistent race. And we've got that battle between Putzklis and Dadswell. Putzklis, of course, in that pink purple car out front. I'm a bit colorblind. Dadswell pulling alongside him, and that should be the job done and dusted. We'll see if Putzklis comes back at him as they go into the chicane. And I think that is the job done. You can see Putzklis just backing off to get a bit more of a safer line through that chicane.
Yeah, his lack of rear wing not helping him down the straights there. You may think that it would save a bit of drag, but did not seem to be the case. I thought that was going to be game over for him, but yeah, you lose the rear wing in these cars, and apparently you don't get a meatball. So, fair enough. Right there, unless he's now in the pits. So maybe he did have a meatball and just continued as long as he could. He won't be back out on circuit now, I imagine, if Putzklis is looking to repair that damage. Lopez has been caught back up. Atmaka is close, and we love a photo finish here at Road Atlanta. It's very possible that chicane really does support a close finish. But it's a good final corner on that SS section for Lopez. How neat and tidy are they? Can they get it to the apex? It looks good for the pair. Then Barber's off the circuit behind, but I think we'll pay attention to this second and third place battle with Atmaka trying to close right at the end.
Yeah, and Halliburton out in front, 5.2 seconds clear of the rest of the pack, so he's done an absolute stellar job from start to finish. It's kind of been on rails for the entirety of the race, and behind him Lopez and Atmaka still duking it out as they go through the chicane. I would no, they're already by the last few turns. Lopez just barely holding on, getting second, and Atmaka third.
Baba, despite the spin, finishes in P4. He was struggling for most of that race. Jater is going to hold off Mitchell. Mitchell was quick towards the end of this race, he was able to close in by, well, 3 seconds. Apologies. Well, 4 tenths of a second, apologies, on that previous lap, but it wasn't quite enough to close in. Albert will be frustrated. He had a chance, maybe even at the race win, certainly a podium if it weren't for that early spin for himself. Frickleton from the back. It wasn't a perfect race for Frickleton, but he still finishes in P10 in a race of very high attrition. And Dadswell is going to beat Harmon in all of that as well. Dadswell was Batsman Peterscus, wasn't he? So he'll certainly beat Harmon. Nowhere near one another in the end, though. And Kopka with a mistake near the end, as so many did. He finishes in P13, 1 position up from his starting spot. We will go through the results in just a minute, and we will also have some interviews with some of the drivers. I'll also give a shout out to SDK Gaming, the providers of our overlay. Brilliant graphics at SDK Gaming provide fantastic customization as well, and the templates you can use, whether it's the NASCAR ticker, the NASCAR timing tower, the Formula 3.5, the F1 2017 style overlay. So much available with SDK Gaming. Do check out sdk-gaming.co.uk to get yourself a subscription. Kane Halliburton then, your week 1 winner. He was the car number 1. He had strong opposition, but that race start, which a lot of it was himself, he really was good on those cold tyres, and he was dominant in the end. Pablo Lopez was in 2nd place, showed good pace, did Lopez, as was expected. At Macca, really mixing it with some legends in the Radicals series. Watch out for him for the rest of the season. Then it was Aaron Barber, Paulo Drater, great to see him up there in P5. I'm trying to think, so Drater, I still can't think what series Drater is. I think MX5 driver, Paulo Drater. Ever so sorry, Paulo. He is a very good driver, though. Has won races in Apex Racing League. Christopher Mitchell was very strong in 6th place ahead of Tommy Bitsons. Tristan Albert was in 8th place after starting on the front row. Paul Crabb was in 9th, and Dylan Freckleton rounding out the top 10. Then it was Jake Spencer, Robert Woodward, Benjamin Kopka, Tom Dadswell, Eric Harmon. Buttercliff had to retire, I think. Frankie D also retired, and Lucas Vieira not doing as well as his Brazilian counterpart, and Bartos as well, finishing in 19th position. So we will get some interviews with drivers, but at the moment none of them are joining us. It's absolutely heartbreaking, Johan. But we can look ahead to the rest of the season in terms of the schedule, because we've got Nordschleife coming up last on the schedule, but we've got some brilliant tracks coming up before then. Next week, we are going to be visiting Laguna Seca. I imagine there's going to be very high participation for that, Johan. I tried to get my words out, doing me. I've developed a stutter all of a sudden. And yeah, free circuit, everyone knows that track, so I think a lot of drivers taking part.
I'm actually very excited about the whole series lineup. I mean, we've got very, very classic tracks on here. I mean, Virginia International, we've got Sebring, Red Bull Ring, Phillip Island, Suzuka, Imola. I did try the car in Imola, and it's an absolute treat on that track. So a lot easier to drive than Road Atlanta. Yeah, I mean, Hockenheim, Alton Park, it's just going to be an absolute blast of a season.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah, Laguna, then Virginia, Sebring, Red Bull Ring, Summit Point, Phillip Island, Suzuka, Imola, Hockenheim, Alton Park, and Nordschleife. Yeah, should be a lot of fun, taking us all the way to August in that one. And of course, then just move on to another season, of course, of this fantastic official series. We have got an interview waiting for us, and we will drag him up because we have got we've got Lopez in the comms box with us. Pablo, congratulations on that P2 finish. You must be quite pleased with that, because starts in P6, finishing in P2, I think that's always a good result.
Well, yes, I'm happy with that. I knew Kane is really fast, and I had a shitty second lap on quali. I did fail on turn 5, so the second lap is the fastest one. So if you do that, you are bad in the grid already. I had a good start. Some guns crashed. We lost 5 seconds to Kane, got 1 second back, and then in the final laps, he got half a second back again to him. So it was so hard to follow, also to defend to Mikhail. But it was really nice. I freaking love this car. It's quite a handful to drive, and it shows some degradation at the end of the races. So it's really nice to drive, and you need to take care of it.
Absolutely. Are you? We know that, of course, you've been doing the VRS data packs for the SR8s for a long time. Are you still doing the data packs for the SR10?
Yes, yes. I
Excellent
just switched
stuff.
to the SR10, and I am happy with that. I had a little difference of weather the first week, and people were complaining about it, but I fixed it and got a nice reference lap time, so people were happy again.
Definitely. It's good to hear, actually, someone being positive about this car, because it hasn't got the best reception so far. But no, it's good to hear that you're a big fan. Also, when it comes to those data packs, is it quite unusual to have drivers copying your lines and your braking points whenever you do your guides? You kind of I imagine a lot of the drivers who you race against are sort of getting inspired kind of by that. Do you notice that you see drivers as on top of the line?
Indeed. I mean, many people just drive the radical to beat the data pack time, and some people also just upload their lap times if they beat my time. So it's funny, but it is what it is. I get money from it. It's my job, actually, VRS. So it's one thing is good, that thing is bad, because you show your weapons,
Definitely, yes, but yeah, it certainly does help out a lot of us less talented drivers to get somewhere near the pace. Is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out to, Pablo?
Well, shout out to all the organizers here again for doing this stream. Apex Racing TV, VRS, Team Forcilla as well, because tomorrow we have 6 hours of Watkins Glen official in iRacing, so another weekend full of racing.
Awesome. Well, we wish you the best of luck for that one, Pablo. See you back next week.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
So that was Pablo Lopez there, and yeah, it's a good opportunity to promote Virtual Racing School a little bit. Thanks to them for supporting us on Apex Racing TV and the other Apex Racing sectors as well. If you want to get fast in this car, then yeah, use Pablo's setups. He was well, not his setups, but his track guides. You can copy his racing lines and his braking points and such, and you can be somewhere close to him. There aren't many better drivers to learn from, and of course that's just the tip of the iceberg, because there are 50 odd other cars also available through a VRS subscription. Johan, I think we've got another interview lined up.
Yeah, so we've got our race winner with us, Kane Halliburton, and firstly, massive congratulations on an absolute stellar performance of a race. Just tell us, how did that race kind of feel from start to finish for you?
Thank you. It felt easy, really. I just got a bit lucky at the start and just cruised the whole race, brought it home nice and easy.
And then, I mean, as you said, you had a very good start, but then also kind of throughout the race, we saw a lot of drivers starting to struggle with tires, especially here at the 3/4 mark. Were you having the same amount of trouble with your tires, or were you managing them all throughout the race, knowing that it's a bit difficult by the end?
Yeah, I saw that gap after lap 1 and I just backed off a little bit to manage my tires, stay consistent. With the ends in mind, there was no need to take risks with tires when I knew I had that gap.
Awesome stuff. And then, of course, with the SR10 being a new car, what does it feel like in terms of driving the new car and also kind of drive it at the limit, being this new to the service?
It feels great in my opinion. Um, I'm seeing a lot of talk about it being not as good as the SR8, but in my opinion, it feels pretty similar. It feels like a more powerful modern version to me. Really enjoyable.
Definitely agree with you there. And yeah, from your side, are you looking forward to the rest of the season? From the fact that you've got a livery uploaded, I would assume that you're going to stay with us for as long as you can throughout the season.
Yeah, I will try to make every race. Go for the championship. Uh, Good group of guys here. They usually give good races that are really enjoyable, so I don't see why I wouldn't stay along.
Yeah, it would be absolutely awesome to have you. And then from your side, Kane, any shout outs for people supporting you, people watching these races they want to say hi to?
Yeah, shout out to everyone watching, everyone working on this broadcast, everyone in the race. For just putting together a good race. Thanks to Dave as well for organizing the broadcast, especially.
Yeah, that's always kind of the amazing thing to see is how the community pulls together around the radical. But yeah, Kane, we're definitely seeing you in the races again in the future. Again, massive congratulations on your first place. I think you can go to bed proud and happy with that race. And yeah, good luck for the future races.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was Ken Halliburton, everyone.
Yeah, good to see him back out on circuit. I can't remember if he did last season. Actually, I don't think he did the last season that we broadcasted. I think it was a slightly depleted field in terms of Kane and Pablo and Aaron not being able to take part every meeting. But no, good to see them all out on track and all of them finishing in the top four tonight. I think that pretty much rounds us off. But I mean, yeah, and just another word for this car. I mean, I think today was sort of to be expected because it's week one. I know that we had week 13 to learn the car as well. But actually, in hindsight, with the difficulty of the curbs around this circuit, this was actually quite a tricky round one host. I think when we look back at this round, we kind of look back and think how many mistakes there were. But I think there's going to be a rapid skill improvement with drivers getting used to this car over the next few months.
Yeah, it's definitely a driver's car. I'm going to give it that because it is an exhilarating and very difficult drive. But once you've managed to kind of get a hold of the car, and I mean, Kane Halliburton showing us all that it is very possible to keep this car under control. It just takes practice, and it's going to make for some very exciting racing in the future. Um, I would highly recommend that as a iRacing driver, you check out the car yourself as well. It's definitely worth the investment to kind of participate in it. Who knows? Maybe you're even good enough to take part in the Strength of Field series. I don't know how many top end drivers watch the stream, but yeah, definitely a very fun car to take out on track.
Definitely, yes. Buy the car, everyone. It's only $11.99. So yeah, hopefully you can buy it and take part because it's a brilliant community. We had, I think, 4 splits tonight. About 80 drivers being taken part in this strength of field race, and there's loads of official splits, elsewhere in the week. So yeah, definitely to give this car a go. And the schedule is honestly so good. Lots of free circuits, so if you're new to iRacing, then you can take part in plenty of the weeks. And a few kind of more obscure tracks as well. I think Virginia in particular will be very interesting to see during week 3. that pretty much rounds us off then for tonight. Of course, if you've enjoyed this broadcast, do leave a like on the video, subscribe to Apex Racing TV, and also check out our social media channels as well on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Also check out the Apex Racing Team YouTube channel as well, because there's quite a lot of content being put up on that. There's actually a review from one of the ART drivers about the Radical SR10, so check out the Apex Racing Team YouTube channel to see that video. Of course, we'll be back with you next week. This is going to go for the next 3 months. We are broadcasting every single round of this official series championship. Thanks to the community, of course, for funding this broadcast. It will be Laguna Seca next time out, so hopefully you do not miss that one. So yeah, once again, thanks to the community for providing this broadcast for this season, particularly Dave Girard for organising the fundraising, and hopefully we'll see you back next week. But for now, from myself, Sam Fitzpatrick, from Johan Karanas, and from Lewis Araya, we are going to say goodbye, and we'll see you back in California in 7 days' time. See you then.
Are you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRating look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, you will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you exactly where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off of your lap times. And our powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the world's best drivers, including Peter Berryman, John Robertson, Brandon Trano, and IndyCar World Champion Alex Palou. All these champions agree that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also priced well below the competition. So if you're looking to upgrade to direct drive and the best pedals in sim racing, VRS is your answer. If you want to get better, get faster, and make it happen sooner rather than later, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. You'll be so glad that you did. Visit www.virtualracingschool.com and learn why the best use VRS.